Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lamplighter. Today we have with us our guest, Yvonne Sneeden. Yvonne had a near-death experience resulting from heart arrhythmia in which she encountered Jesus Christ, who helped her heal from trauma. Yvonne, I know these kinds of experiences can be difficult to put into words, but to the best of your ability, please share with us your near-death experience.
With pleasure, and thank you for inviting me, Matthew, and thank you everyone who will be listening to my story as well, my experience. My NDE occurred in 2008. I was in the US, it was a new country. I was just divorced, and I had to raise my daughter. I had to learn everything and make sure that I would give the best life to my daughter in a new country where everything was new. I worked overtime and made sure that she was doing all the activities like any other child would do. And it actually created so much stress. And then also I had a whole life of several traumas happen in my life. For example, if you think of any trauma, I've had them. It had been a long journey. Alone in the US, my family was in Europe. I had left everything behind for somebody that I had married in the US, and it didn't work out. We divorced, and I was at the end of the rope of my life. I wasn't suicidal at all. It was just I felt that every energy that I had for life had actually come to the end of it. Just like when you have a battery of life and then your battery is depleted. And that's exactly the feeling I had. And at the same time, because of my life in the US and trying to make a living and building a life for my daughter and myself, I knew I had the professional capability because I had been working at the European Union and the diplomatic field in Europe. So I really knew I had the capability, but I had to get back there on my own, totally alone, 24/7, raising my daughter. And because of that, I started to, to have arrhythmia. And it was getting more and more. So I went to see a cardiologist, and he put the machine, you have to keep like for 2 weeks and they monitor. And then he came back and he said, "You have the symptoms of arrhythmia." And he asked me what I was doing for fun. He said, "You need to do something for fun. You need to relax yourself and do something." And he explained something that I had never knew. He said, "You know that what you do for fun is related to your physical heart. So your heart will have the pressure of stress of life and of every negativity that happened in one person. So just try to find a hobby, something that make you." I was in church back then because I had been raised Catholic, but then I had kind of withdrawn myself from any religion. And at the age of 24, I had gone back to Christ through more the Christian non-denominational Protestants level, evangelical Protestant, all that world. It's always, people always think there is one Christianity, but there are so many different denominations. But the central point is Jesus Christ. That's where everyone agreed on. Everything else, there's so many differences. And so at the age of 24, I gave my life to Christ, and I had become a strong Christian for many years, even went into the ministry in Europe to the seminary in parallel to my professional life. And here I am in the US, tired of all my life on my own with my daughter, arrhythmia. And the cardiologist told me, you need to, uh, you need to do something fun. But in the meantime, I'll give you some medication in case you have an episode. So if you have an episode, and for people that never had arrhythmia, it's something that your heart races so much, you can't stop it. You can even try to relax or do anything. It's not going to happen. It's really, and it can be life-threatening as well. One day, I was so afraid to have arrhythmia, to have that crisis, because that episode, it's very scary. You feel like you're going to die, that your heart will never stop beating fast. So what I did in order to avoid that episode, I just took a medication without even having an attack. So, and I didn't put it into my mind that if you don't have an attack and your heart is beating normally, taking that medication will slow your beat. And that's what happened that to me with at that moment. So I had taken the medication. I'm sitting on the sofa in my house, and I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading the Bible, and then suddenly, as I read, suddenly I felt all my organs shutting down, and I feel a tightness around my chest, and I feel my organs shutting down, and simultaneously, I'm out of my body, and I am instantly translated in some amazing light. So I didn't feel the sufferance of the transition between two worlds. I was instantly in God's light. It was the most amazing light. That light was beyond this world. It was it to me it was God's life. It was Source life. It was Creator life. Everything, every creation, every love, every joy, every kindness was emanating from that light. I was basking in eternal light where there is no stress, there is no anxiety, there is no distress, there is no judgment, there is no anger, there is no hatred. All those negative emotions were non-existent in that light. I was just basking in that amazing loving light. It was the light of all love, the light of all love, of all unconditional love. I felt like every particle of that light was particles of who I was. It was everything it has. The component of that light was the same component that of my own existence, of my own energy. I was love. I felt love. I was joy. I felt joy. I felt I felt the highest level of all those emotions because God or Source actually contain all the highest level of emotion, the highest level of joy. Everything is contained in that creative light of God, and I was part of it, and I felt total peace, total joy. But that joy was, like you look at the mountain and the peak of the mountain. Well, that joy that I felt was the peak of all joy that ever exists in the whole world, in the whole dimension, in all realities. I was feeling that incredible joy and happiness. I was just that happy spirit, that happy soul that had no worry in the world. I was just basking in that amazing, ultimate kindness of light. And I was just basking there, like experiencing the moment. I wasn't even thinking of who I was, who I had been on earth, what I was. I was just love and light and joy. I mean, everything positive. There was not even a doubt, because doubt is also part of a negative emotion. It was just incredible joy. It was just there. It was just so amazing. I was that pure spirit and with no recollection of what existed before. And suddenly, as I'm basking there for what I felt was really an amazing long time, suddenly coming in front of me in the distance, I saw like a spirit. It was translucent. It was translucent, and it was just like, like the outline of legs, of arms, and it was very circular face, but everything was just translucent. I couldn't make any feature. It was as if it was light, but with some kind of forms, like arms that were ending in points and legs that were ending in points. It's just like flame, those flame that end in points, but it was light. It was made of light. It was just a beautiful spirit. And that spirit was really filled of peace and gentleness and elegance. And it was just standing like that in that light. I have to say that when I was in that light, there was no bottom, there were no limits. I was just inside the light, standing there, floating in that light, and there was no limit all around. It was just everywhere I looked was light, and that being comes in, and that being is even brighter than that light I am basking in. And it's just that huge, beautiful, elegant spirit. And it just started to float and hover very elegantly like that. And it's just very kind, very gentle. And it's floating towards me. And when it arrives towards me, it just comes above me and circle around me and then look at me with so much admiration, so much love, and so much pride. And it was just trying to really handle me with a lot of care and cautious, like, not to hurt, not to damage, just very gentle. And it was looking at me with so much joy and so much kindness and I say that all the time, but it's just like a mother when she has her newborn baby and she kisses that newborn baby all over the face because she's so happy and so proud and happy of that child. That's exactly how I felt. That's how I felt the love of that being. That's how I felt that the love of that being was there, holding me, loving me, and just like a mother. It felt really like a mother, and um, and it had that circular face. I remember, and I couldn't make up his feature because it was so filled with light. I could vaguely, from a distance, kind of see some outline of eyes and mouth, but it was pure light, trying to take a consistence just to connect with me. And when that being made of that pure light and love embraced me, it suddenly embraced me after looking at me with so much like, wow, that's the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my entire life. That's how that being was looking at me, so much love. And then it took me in its arm and it wrapped me in those arms of light. And as it wraps me, I suddenly feel and hear I'm downloaded by God the Creator. I am downloaded. And without any doubt, the voice of God says to me, this is Jesus. And as I was in Jesus' arms, I felt I felt that nothing in the entire world, in the entire galaxy, in the entire reality I mean every planet, every cosmos that exists, nothing could ever happen to me because I was in the arms of eternal love. I was in the arms of the ideal parents. The father and the mother love was all in one unit when Jesus was showering me with that unconditional love. And it makes sense sometimes that it was just complete. It was a complete love. And it just was loving me. And I felt like I always say that, but I felt like I was like a child on their parents' lap, and then you're held by your parents and nothing can, and you feel so safe and so comfortable and so secured in those arms. Nothing would, that's how I felt. But at the same time, I could feel all the existence, all the planets, all the reality and the cosmos behind. I could feel, I was aware of all that as I was with Christ and as I was with Jesus Christ. And I could feel that the immensity of what exists while I was experiencing my own individual experience. And at some point, as everything there is a knowing, we don't necessarily have to ask questions. We do ask questions, but it's instantly answered. Everything is a knowing. So I knew that what I was experiencing would have an end, and that at some point I would have to go back to earth. So while I'm basking in that light, I feel that thought coming in my mind, you will have to go back to earth at some point. You'll have to go back to earth at some point. So I just asked Jesus, I said, Jesus, I just was telling Jesus that I didn't want to go back to earth. But then suddenly some memory of earth were coming back. I was dating somebody on earth at that time. And in our Christian church, it's very important to date somebody that's actually the will of God. So we pray forever. We torture ourselves forever to know if that person is really the one God has sent for you. And you have so much stress about that because you don't want to make a mistake. And so, so when I was with Jesus, I said, so if you send me back to earth, what do I have to do with him? I'm not going to give a name. I usually give a name, and I realize that some people are named that way. And one day I was presenting somewhere, and there was a person with that name. I felt so bad, so I'm just going to say him. And I said, so Jesus, if you send me to earth, back to earth, what do I have to do with him? I was so concerned to do the will of God, even in that world. And when I said that, Jesus just stood up, suddenly stood up in the air. We're still in that bright light. He stand back in the air, and then he opened a huge screen that appeared like that. When he stands there, it takes a more consistent appearance. Now I can see an outline of a white robe made of light. And I can start to see his feature, like his eyes, his nose, but it's all light. He's all made of light. And he's standing there to the left, and then he's made appear that screen to the right, like that huge screen. And there are two square with yes and no, just like on forms when you fill forms, questionnaires, and then they say yes or no. And then he looks at that screen, and with his hand, he just tick on the no. He says, and then to make sure I understood well, he said, you have to say no. You have to say no. No to the relationship, it means. You have to say no. And but while he was explaining that to me, simultaneously, because in that world, everything was happening at the same time. It can happen. I was talking to him about things, and then about about that man, and at the same time as he was telling me no, he was showing me how much love he had for that man. He was showing me simultaneously that love was love, and how he was showing me that he was just sending me kiss and love, and he was sending kiss and love to that man as well at the same time. So it was that we are love. It's love. Love is the same for him and for you because I love unconditionally, and that's what the message he was showing. But it was just that we were not compatible. And so when he shared that, and I asked him then, but why is Steve? Oh, sorry. Well, I've given the name now. That's fine. Sorry for anyone whose name is Steve. Okay. And I said, uh, why is he uh, so mean with his word when we have a conflict? And when I said that, he came back down from where he was. The screen was gone, and he came and sat and stand in front of me, but in a quite of a distance like that, but in front of me now. And when I asked him, why is he always like so snappy and mean when we have conflict? And when I asked that to Jesus, he actually came down from where he was. The screen disappeared, and Jesus stood in front of me, but in a distance, and with a very, very loving and neutral voice, without any judgment. There's no judgment in everything he was. And he said to me, It's because he has decided to experience his life on earth through his mind primarily. You have, so logically, so you have decided to to lead your life, experience your life on earth through your heart. And there was no judgment. It means that, for example, when we have a conflict, the first thought that he will have would be, how can I hurt her because I'm hurt? And then he would just hurt with his words. And for me, because I was going through my heart, when we would have a conflict, I would think, I'm not going to say that because it's going to hurt him. See, we were at a different level, but there was no judgment. It was not as if I was such an amazing spiritual woman because I was the one that was going through my heart. No, it was just we were different. We were not compatible in the way we were expressing ourselves and thinking and who we were and what we were experiencing on earth. We were just different and it wouldn't match. And that's the time of my life that I realized that it's not always true that opposite attracts. That we always say of opposite attracts. Well, I was really clearly said that it's not compatible, so you're going to hurt each other. So it's not always, I think it's not always true. So after that moment, I I was asking questions to Jesus, and one of the questions I asked, which was very important to me because I had decided on Earth when I was on Earth to take an appearance which was a colorful appearance. You know, I have a brown skin, and I asked Jesus, and honestly, I was asking that without any pain, without any anger. I was asking that in general, why people on planet Earth were racist. I asked that question to Jesus, and it's racism in all the directions. It's not just, it's all the races, white versus black, black versus white, Asian versus black, all the religion, all I've traveled the world and I've seen racism in all the directions. So I was asking, what? I was just curious. I had no pin. It's like I was from another planet, and I was just asking why on that planet that was existing. I had no attachment. And when I asked that, Jesus again said, without judgment, without condemnation, but he explained something I would never have thought of. He said, it's because, and always very neutral, he said, it's because of their self-centeredness. And personally, I would have thought it depends where you were born, the society around you, the culture around you, maybe a trauma with one of the race, geographically, your how you grew up, and so that would have been things I would have thought of, but I would never have thought of self-centeredness. So it means that when you are thinking just of yourself and when you want things, everything to revolve around how you look, who you are, when you are the point of comparison, you want people to be surrounded with people that looks like you, that do things like you, that lives like you, because it's a constant reminder of you, of me, I, and self. And that's what brings that we want, and then everyone wants to stay with that same group together. But then when once we are making the exercise to just look outside self, that's when we start to racism start to die within self. That's how I understood he was explaining it because it was all about self-centeredness, and I was really surprised. And in a way, it is true because when we are, I mean, if you ask question later, but when we feel like we are together, regardless of the race and the color, we feel that we have that oneness. So we forget it's not us that's the most important, it's the other. The other becomes the number one, the most important person. And so that was and so after asking some questions, This one I like to share because of all the pain on earth all the time, from one country to another, one race to another, one tribe to another. It happens all the time, and that was the reason Jesus gave me. So after that, he came back to next to me, and we are still all that ha is happening in that brilliant light. And so he comes back next to me here, and then we start to proceed outside of the light. And as we proceed outside of the light, I start to see Jesus more clearly. And actually, he has, it's like about 5'10", 6, between 5'10" and 6. And he has that, now he has that white robe that we all imagine. And he has those dark brown hair, everything that we imagine he is. Suddenly I see him that way. And he's to my left. And we are progressing. And in front of me, as we are getting out of the light, in front of me, I see the celestial city. I call it the crystal city. And it is just magnificent. It's on in the distance. They have huge, tall buildings. They're so shining that they look like crystal. A little bit like that gold, when gold is so pure that it's transparent. That's how it looked, and it had those wide avenue, and the sky was like that amazing, amazing blue, and it was so bright, but I couldn't see a sun anywhere. But it was just pure light. I was so excited to go back home. I was just so excited. I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. I said, that's home, that's home. And I was just walking fast and fast. It was like I'm going home. And then as I'm walking, I feel like some people are walking towards me, like when you walk on the street. And then as I walk and I turn around to look at who was there, and and I see a dozen angels walking, like small, probably 9 or 10 years old, angels, children angel. And I say that because even in my Christian faith, they said, oh, there's no children in heaven. But I saw them, and I'm not going to, I always say everything I'm experiencing, I cannot change it to fit any doctrines. I'm just sharing the experience I had when I was dead and I was in heaven. And so I had those children angels walking. They were like 9 or 10. They had those white robe, very circular face too, and silverish whitish hair up to here, like a bit wavy. And I knew they were angel because they had tiny wings, those ones. And I realized that we always portrayed angel with huge wings, like as if they were flying. And so, but I saw them, and they had small wings, and I thought of that later. I said, why were those wings so small? And when I came back to Earth, somebody said to me, but it's because they were closed. And I said, oh, it makes sense. And so they were there walking about a dozen. So they were so excited. Everything in that world is vibrant. There is joy, there's light, there's energy. Everything is curious. We want to know, we want to experience. It's just the opposite of all our churches where you cannot make a sound. Whether it's Christian or Buddha, all the religion, you have to be super silent. And if something fall, everyone is looking at you like you, oh my God, what do you do? Like you're. But over there, it's like everyone is that in that effervescence. It's like, yeah. And so they're walking towards the city, very happy too. And then they see me. One of them sees me, and one of them sees me, and they just say, "Oh, it's Yvonne." Not like it's not a big deal. They were not even surprised to see me. They're like, "Oh, okay." And then suddenly they look at next to me, and they see Jesus. And when they saw Jesus, that I can still see it, that one angel, his face turned into pure light. I couldn't even make its feature anymore. It was just a ball of light, of celestial light. And and so it when and so it, when the other one noticed that too, so everyone ran into Jesus' arm. They were so happy to see Jesus, like and they went into his arms, and the dozen of them. And in that world, what is so beautiful is that even if you're several people running into one person's arms, you can hold everyone together. So Jesus did that. He took them all into his arms, and he was so happy and smiling and taking them all into his arms. And the beauty in that world is that they felt it individually, that they were in Jesus' arms, not just a portion of it. They were all completely in his arms of love. And after that feast of love, I would call, Jesus told them, go back to your mothers. I always, for the longest time, I said to your angels, because people will say, well, there's no women, female in heaven. But I have to say the truth of what I saw. He said, go back to your mothers. And when I look, and he said, it's Yvonne's moment. He said first, it's Yvonne's moment. When he was holding them with all the love, he said, it's Yvonne's moment. Go back to your mothers. And he was saying that with all inclusivity and love. It was not just rejecting them. And so they went back. And when I turned, I wanted to see who were those mothers, because I've never heard that in the Bible or anything. So I turned around and I saw the most amazing women, female angels, pure. I'm not saying that they give birth in heaven. I don't think that. I think it's just that they were their mother, their probably their supervisor, their mentor, some, but so those that were. That's what I would guess, but I was not told that. All I could see was that there were those incredible 12-foot high women angels. They all had white robe, and some had like a pastel type of looking colors, and they had long hair to the knees. They were emanating the same unconditional love than Jesus, the same energy, the same purity. They were emanating that heavenly purity, that heavenly love. And they looked at me with so much love and kindness, and they said, Yvonne, we will never hurt you. We will never harm you. You're home. And my life was such a difficult, very difficult life. And they said, we will never hurt you, we'll never harm you. You're home. You are one of us. That's what they said. And so when that moment came, I said to Jesus, I turned to Jesus and I said, I don't want to go back to earth. I want to stay here. Uh, I don't want to go back. That planet Earth is such a difficult planet. It's a violent planet. I cannot relate to that world. People are mean. Many people are mean. Not everyone, but many people are mean and selfish. They wouldn't care less about other people. I can't relate to that world, especially after the angel had told me that. I said, I don't want to go back. I'm home. I want to stay here. But I could tell that Jesus was looking at me as if he would have wanted that, but he couldn't. As if I had had a plan, or it was planned like that, that I had to go back. And I tried again, and uh, I said, if you send me into that body back on earth, to that container, uh, it's broken beyond repair. You can't send me in there. I was trying all I could. You can't send me there. It's broken beyond repair. And I could see that it wasn't working. So eventually I said to Jesus, I said, if you send me back to earth, I'll be beyond exhaustion. I can't do it. I really can't. And so when I said that, Jesus lifted in the air, transported me into another space. Suddenly we were in a black velvety space, a little bit like the cosmos without stars, but it was completely peaceful. I had zero fear at all. And yet, for the longest time, until I was 25, I was afraid of darkness. I would sleep with a little light in my room. But here it was like total peace and velvet. So we were just standing in that cosmos without stars, just standing in it. And he just expanded. in front of me in that cosmos. And he became half a mile high. And as he became half a mile high, um, his whole continent, his whole being became like a huge hologram made of light, a powerful, but I could see all his feature, all his being, but he was so powerful that everything was like beams of energy, beams of light, beam of energy. Everything looked like energy of light. And so when he was in that, and he looked at me, he was no longer the meek parent feeling Jesus. Suddenly he was creation, he was power, he was part of creator. It was incredible. It was so powerful. And then he looked at me with all the peace, but also very powerful beings, like all powerful beings. It's very impressive. I can tell you that. And he looked at me and he said, Yvonne, lift your hand. And I lift my hand and he said, I will fill you with my power, with my strength. I will fill you with my energy of life. And when he said that, he extended his finger like that from the half a mile. And you would think, how can he do that? But everything is light, everything is energy. So he could reach with his beam. He reached out like that on my finger. And when he did that, I could feel instantly all the creation light, all that creative light, all that divine light, all that God's light, all Christ's light, that just poured into my being like a huge waterfall. But that waterfall was made of sparkle, of light, of energy, of beaming, dry, wet type of energy that was sparkling, and it was filling my entire being, and it was reaching my entire spiritual being and my body simultaneously on earth. It was refilling my bones, my cells. I could feel every single cell individually being refilled with that celestial energy of life. My bone, my nerves, my every single muscle, everything was just filled with that energy of life. And when it was actually over, he came back here and he said, Yvonne, I love everyone. He came back, he shrank back. He first shrank back here to be about my height, and he held me back in his arm like that from the back. He held me like that with love, and he said, Yvonne, and then when he did that, and then he came back in front and he said, Yvonne, I love everyone. I love everybody. I love humanity. I love everything and everyone unconditionally. And when he said that, uh, I did think in my mind, well, you're Jesus. I was just thinking that. I said, you're Jesus. You came to earth to show us God's love. You show us how to love others, that you show us that miracle of love and how you were God's son, the Son of God, and like we are brother and sisters in Christ as well, and that we're all loved. You came to show that to us. So I'm not surprised that you love I was thinking that in my mind. I'm not surprised that you love everything and everyone. And uh, and then he said to me, "I'll show you how I love." He said, "I show you how I love." And then when he said that, he took my essence, and I will say my heart to make it easier for people. It took my essence, my heart, and he put it in his heart. And he made us one. He brought actually my energy, my essence, and he actually merged my essence with his essence. And we became one unit for a moment. I know it sounds sacrilegious for a lot of Christians, but I became one with Christ, and I was Christ for a few seconds. He wanted me that way. So I could feel, I could sense, I could experience the love he felt for humanity. He wanted me to experience it, to understand what it was. And at that moment, I felt trillions of waves of kindness, love, joy, celebration, compassion, goodness for everything that exists, whether it's human, animal, plant, planets, cosmos. Everything was just a huge celebration of joy and love. And it was wave. It's very, and that's where I say it's very difficult to express with human words because it has absolutely nothing that can compare to that love, that experience I had that I can express with human words. It's totally another world, another space, another energy, other feeling, other reality. But it was one thing that was sure, it was unconditional, eternal, all-encompassing, infinite love for everything and everyone of us. And when I felt that, and if there are any Christian listening and just feeling uncomfortable, if you go to the Gospel of John, I think I'm not good with it, but I know it's maybe John 7 or not John 9. Go and check when Jesus says, when he prays, he says to God, let they be one, like you and I are one. And that's the oneness I experienced when I was in heaven. I was one with Christ. And it was the most amazing, life-changing experience ever. And then after that amazing celebration and of love, he detached, we demerged. And when we demerged, he came back in front of me. And at that moment, I knew that my time with Jesus was over. My time in heaven was over. I knew there was no coming back, no way that I could try to stay there or influence. I know that moment is over. You go back to earth now. This moment between us is over. Go back home. And I felt that and so when that happened, I just felt myself, my spirit, come back and go through different dimensions until it came back to this reality. And then I felt it reintegrate my body through my head, and I was back here on earth. And that's my experience.
Oh, oh, okay. Well, first I was just thinking about how you described Jesus. Um, and the light and you said something about like a circular face. I'm just trying to understand better what you mean by that. So, do you mean like his face was more round, or do you mean that there was like kind of an aura of roundness of light, like in the paintings, kind of?
It was more like his face was just like a circular, because it wasn't in a human form yet.
Oh,
Because it
okay.
was coming, it was, the Bible said that God is light
Hmm.
and he sent his light to earth. And so it's literally light, and he was starting to take form. And in that process, his face was just circular, but made
Oh,
of light, made of light. It was like as if you would see a sun, but it's not a sun, and it's light.
okay.
It's light,
It's like
but
his face is a sun.
made of light.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredibly,
yeah,
incredibly cool. So another thing you talked about, it was kind of like you felt that he was made of these particles of love and light, and that you were made of those particles. Is that right? Did I
yeah,
get that right?
yeah, yeah.
That is so interesting because I've often I've heard some other NDEs that suggest similar ideas, and I kind of have this running theory that every person and everything is made of this like creation particle of love and light.
It is.
Yeah, is that kind of what you were experiencing? Is that that you have
Yeah,
that sense that everything was part of that?
yeah. I felt it. I was blending with all that light, and it makes sense because the light or God, however you want to say it, has created everything from its initial ingredients, I would say. I don't know how to say that. Uh,
Yeah.
we are part of those ingredients. So it makes sense
Uh,
that we are light, just the same as God is light, because we
yeah.
come from that. We come from that. We were birthed from it. So it makes total sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you said that you knew it was Jesus because you had like a download of this thought in your mind. Well, yes, this is Jesus. But like, was it like words or was it like a concept that just kind of came into your mind, or how did that work? Can you try to describe it?
Yes, absolutely. In that world, everything is telepathic. Everything I experienced, we were not moving a mouth or anything. It was all from thoughts to thoughts, from knowing to knowing. So that voice, I was totally, and as you know, in that world, there is no doubt. Oh, is that this or that? That doesn't exist at all. Everything is truth. Everything is real. And so I knew I was totally conscious that God, Creator, the creative light, was speaking to me. So it wasn't me thinking, oh, that's the light, that's
Mm.
Jesus. It was definitely coming from outside myself. And God was speaking to me in my mind and saying, this is Jesus. He was giving
Mm.
me that information, just like a download. You know, you download an information. That information was downloaded in my mind, and it was actually God creators. He was actually telling me that, or light, or creator, however people want to call it. It's all the
Ah,
same. You know, it's all everyone always want to say God. Oh, we don't have to say
yeah.
God because it reminds a herd of church. And then people prefer the light because light is more. But I'm just saying it's all the same concept. But because we are human, we need to express it through words to communicate with each other. But the concept is the same. We just have a different format in how we are expressing it because we have we're in this container, this body, and we
Mm.
need to speak it. And I think that, but it's the same concept, the same
Yeah.
source.
So it sounded like God is introducing Jesus to you. It made me think of when Jesus is baptized
Yeah,
and the dove comes and God says, "This is my beloved son."
that's exactly that. That's
Yeah.
exactly that.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
glad.
glad you said. I never thought of that, but that's exactly that. Actually, it's exactly that. Except that the voice was heard in my mind, you know, but
Wow.
it was exactly that. This is Jesus. Very
Mm.
reverential, very this is Jesus.
Wow. That's an
Yeah.
incredible testimony of that too, because some people will argue that the light being they just are interpreting it as Jesus, or that he's just trying to look like Jesus for you to be comfortable. But sounds like from your experience, no, no, that is absolutely Jesus.
I'm glad you're bringing that because I always said that to people. I said, okay, for some reason, people have on earth nowadays problem with Jesus.
Mm.
And so there will always be a reason to minimize the existence of Jesus. But I'm always telling people, for example, Matthew, if I meet you well, if we meet each other in the afterlife, I'm going to know it's you, Matthew. I'm not going to think you're Charlie or Mark. I know you are Matthew. Well, when you're in that world, you know it's Jesus. And people always say, yeah, but if you're a Christian, it's going to come as Jesus. If you're Buddhist, it's going to come as Buddha because it's different. It's not. We have
Yeah.
individuality. It was definitely Jesus. There's no trick in heaven. That's what I say to people. Do you think that heaven will trick you by saying,
Mm.
oh, you Christian, so we're going to bring that face of Jesus, but it's not really Jesus, or it's not really Buddha? That's tricking people. That's still thinking with our human mind. We're thinking with our human mind, but in that world, there is no trick. Everything is truth. And when we say it's Jesus, it's really Jesus. Uh, so I want to make sure of that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you mentioning that. Wow. In fact, just as a little aside here, there was one experience, I think it was, yeah, Ellen Wheaton's NDE, because she saw Jesus and Buddha, which was really interesting because I was like, wait a minute, if she sees Jesus and Buddha, then that kind of does away with that whole theory of, well, God is just looking like Buddha or something,
Yeah.
to make them comfortable. In fact, what made it even more interesting is that she saw Jesus on a throne, whereas Buddha was not.
Okay. So I have one of my best friends that I met through when I was at IANS. my first IANS conference that I went to. It's a conference for near-death experiencers. And she was from Europe. She's from the Netherlands. And it's a fabulous story. She even saw me in heaven. So that's another story. So we met and we were both, I'm French speaking, I'm from Europe, and she was from Europe too. So we were in Arizona. The conference was in Arizona. So we were so excited to meet. Oh, you're from Europe, me too. And so we became very, very close friends. She also went saw the same celestial city than I saw.
Mm.
And but when she went into the center, she actually saw she saw Buddha, Mohammed, Lao Tse in the center, and they were talking to her about what they had done on earth. But then suddenly she said that suddenly there was that huge light. That's her experience. That huge light that came, and when that huge light came, the vibration of that center of the celeste, the crystal city. And she even said Crystal City, and she didn't say any other word. She said the same Crystal City, like I was saying. And I
Hmm.
had no YouTube video. That was in 2008. It was my very first time at IANS. And so she said that actually she, uh, that big light came, and when that light came, there was that huge vibration and angels, because there are all kind of beings in heaven,
Mm.
not only like us, but there's an angelic world as well. And those angels were singing a very high pitched voice, and the vibration, everybody, all the vibration went at a high level. And when it arrived, it transformed, and it was Jesus. So that shows
Oh,
right there that like you confirm what you were saying, another person saw different beings than Jesus. And Jesus was separate. It was not, oh, we're going to make you think Jesus
yeah.
because, and Jesus was amazing. He opened his arms like that and he said to her, come, I'll bring you to the Father. And he
Ah.
actually merged, she went inside his body, his chest like that, and she was translated in the light, the same light I was in. So just to confirm what you said, that's what she experienced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, has she shared her experience publicly?
So she is from the Netherlands. I can always ask. She lives in Europe. It would be great if I could always ask if she want to share her story.
I
She
would love that.
hasn't. But you know, the beauty of it is that she saw me in heaven. She's because
Wow.
my memory of my NDE is we are going towards a celestial city, but and many experiences will tell you that, but that you have scenes. Sometimes your scenes you don't have the continuation of the whole experience. Sometimes you suddenly remember because they don't want you to God doesn't want you to remember everything. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist on earth. You would just be on standby until you go to heaven if you could remember everything. So because I'm going with the angel and Jesus, I'm going towards that celestial city, and
Mm.
suddenly I am in that velvety space. So she said to me, Yvonne, and that's how we met. Actually, we sat next to each other at the restaurant at that conference, and then how we met, she looked at me and she says to me, I saw you in the Crystal City. And I said, what? I had never shared to anyone my NDE. It was
Mm.
my very first time. And as I said, I had gone to the Crystal City. That's how I was explaining it was. And I said, how? And then she said, yes, I saw you. You were with children angels. And Jesus was there too. At that moment, I believed her because this was my very first, I had no YouTube, no nothing. I was just
Wow.
timidly going to that conference to meet other people like me. And then she said, yeah. And then the children angel were sitting around you and you were sharing to them what you were doing on earth, how you were helping people, how you were helping relationship or supporting people so that they could have an easier life on earth. And actually, that's what I do all the time. I love helping people. And I was in the ministry before in Europe as well. With my ex-husband, so we were really involved in helping people as counselors and things. So she said that, and then she said that, and that's very unique because, as you remember, in heaven, everything is not linear. You actually can experience everything at the same time. So what she had her NDE the same year as me, but not the same month. But she saw me there, and then she said that we looked at each other so excited, and we said we're gonna meet on Earth. And that's she said that we were so excited that we were gonna meet on Earth. And the thing that she explained to me after that, she said when she saw me at the conference, she said, "That's the person, that's the woman I saw in heaven." And she didn't know how to approach me during the conference. She said, "How can I approach her? It's her." And then I came to her and said, "Oh, you're from Europe." And then she was so happy. And that's how she was able to finally tell me that she saw me. And we have stayed like sisters since then. And she has an incredible love for me because she remembers me like I remember Jesus. You see what I mean? I remember, and I have so much love for Jesus because I remember all the love and those angels giving me that love. I don't remember that experience, but she remembers me, so she's always super protective of me. And say, and then it's a funny thing. And she said, Yvonne, you don't look at all like you look there now. Actually, over there, you have long, white, blondish hair. You're made of light. You're so bright. And I was like, okay, thank you. I probably wanted to look differently coming to her than my usual, probably.
Wow.
But she's amazing. We have stayed close friends. Isn't that an amazing story?
That is incredible. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That man, you're not the only one who's had an experience like that. I've heard other experiencers, but here just to wrap up here, I have one more question real quick and then I think we'll be about out of time, unfortunately. But so like I know you mentioned you saw the children with the wings and their mothers. So I don't see this as an issue as far as the angels, because to me I'm thinking, well, a lot of children die, as children, and
Yeah.
then it would go to heaven, and their mothers could continue to raise them. And there are other near-death experiences that will mention that the children that die go to heaven and that they are raised there by their families.
Oh, so maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's probably what you were witnessing.
Yeah. Would you mind if I share a last thought for everyone? Okay, I just want to say to end that when I was with Jesus, he was above religion. He it was unconditional love for all. And I know that in our different denomination, Christian denomination, we always think we got the truth, the other one is wrong, and then we fight with each other, we separate one another. And but Jesus Christ is unconditional love. He's above any of our concepts that restrict us into a kind of a uncomfortable dogma or doctrine. Jesus is above that. He's unconditional love. I feel like on earth we are actually all of us that are spiritual. We love to go to our church or our temple because it connects us to God, and we need maybe we some of us need that on earth because it's the way you connect with God. But I want to say that Christ in heaven is above all that. Religion, I feel, is for earth, for us to connect with, have that connection with God. But there should be less fighting in between denomination and it's more mystical. Christ is a mystical love. He's a mystical God, son of God, and we are all son and daughter of God. We are His brother and sister. He said that we are brother and sisters, and we're all one love together. That's how I want to end it.
Thank you. I do believe we're all children of God, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your testimony of that. So if audience members want to reach out to you, can you share some contact information for them?
Oh yes, I have a website called Live Heaven Now, Live Heaven Dash Now, Live Heaven Dash Now, and there it's my webpage, and there's a contact page, and they can actually send their information and reach out to me like that. I will respond.
Okay, thank you.
Facebook sometimes as well. So I have my own Facebook as well. So, but that's how they can reach out to me.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
And it's been a privilege and a blessing.
It's been a blessing to me too, as well, to be able to share that as well. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening.